Hey everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka Beaver Mosh, and today I'm joined by Vitharr of Sun Eater, whose new record just announced, Never Return, coming out May 10th on Prosthetic Records. Vitharr, thanks for joining me. How are we doing this afternoon?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. We're good. We're stoked for the record to be coming out finally.
Yeah. Well, it was just announced, and I'm curious. How long have you been sitting on it and kind of keeping it a secret, just having it finished?
We started recording drums August 2021.
Oh,
So
wow.
we've been sitting on it. We finished the mastering and everything was done April of last year.
hmm
So we've been waiting a while.
Yeah, so if the record's mastered, what was kind of the thought process behind, holding it for a year? Was that basically a prosthetic thing?
It was a scheduling thing. Yeah.
hmm
I think we were originally talking about March being sort of the release date. And then as things sort of went along, gets pushed further and further back. I think they're still dealing with backlog from even the COVID times. So
Of course,
they're
sure.
still pushing albums out.
Cool. Well, I see the shirt. I know you just finished a tour with Welden Wo, who happens to be kind of a friend of the show. How did that tour go?
The tour went really well. We actually had a fill in for myself on that tour. Unfortunately. I ended up injuring my back, so I wasn't able to make it. But we have a great group of friends who were able to jump in and make sure
Yeah.
the show still happened. But yeah, it went really well from what I've heard.
Rough. I'm so sorry to hear that. I think I saw that on Twitter, but wasn't completely sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. It's getting there now, so it took a while, but yeah, we're back.
Cool. And then, let's preview the record a bit. From my understanding, it sounds like thematically we're kind of dealing with ideas of uncertainties, whether it be like a pandemic or climate change. Am I correct on that?
Yes, it was sort of bred out of uncertainty for sure, and even
Yeah.
just the future of live music, the future of the band. It sort of encapsulates a lot of things in one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said he started writing this and at least recording drums in 2021. So when the record, the process started, well, you probably didn't know where live music or, music in general was probably going.
Yeah, we had a couple of tours canceled and all kinds of stuff happening during the COVID times because nobody knew what was going to happen afterwards,
hmm
um, and even just even things with streaming and AI and all this shit happening. You just never know what the future holds. So it create a lot of resentful feelings.
That's something I haven't talked to with bands about. Like I follow tech news pretty closely, and AI is rapidly it's coming, it's evolving so quick. But we haven't even like
Yeah,
thought about the implications that has for the music industry. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
gonna automate, the whole playlistification of music even more, I feel like.
it's crazy. And even we're seeing even songs become shorter and shorter. So everything is just a blip, and that's sort of how it's marketed towards everybody. So
Mhm.
it's strange times for music for sure.
Yeah, I did a Patreon exclusive where I talked about this project. I can't even remember the name at the top of my head. It was not good, but it was an AI metal band like that's already
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I've heard stories of people writing lyrics with AI already,
Yeah,
and it's just lazy.
yeah, yeah. Well, I guess we can't really know until like the worst of it comes, but I know we're gonna see some bad things. So
It's
there.
bad because like even now with how AI is, this is the worst it's ever going to be in the future. So
Mhm.
you know, it's dark.
I've had this conversation with a few people now, outside of music talk, and like AI in theory is not something to be feared. It could be a
Mm,
great tool to help people, but we have all these companies vying and fighting for patents to get the best gadget out that's not really actually that beneficial to society. It's just like, oh, this phone can do this feature faster than the other phone,
Yeah. Well, it's got some uses. I mean, even for, writing potential, and I know
Uh,
people are, against it for like creative writing and stuff like that. But even, if you're trying to get source material or whatever, I think there's a lot of good that could come from it.
yeah,
And, even on the art side, I think there's some things you could potentially use it
yeah.
for, but I think, the soul of art is the human element. So
Of
I think
course.
it's important for sure. Yeah, yeah.
There are some things that I can't wait to be more automated. Like nobody likes filling out the same questions on a job application 100 times. Like if AI could help with stuff like that, like, but like,
Yeah, totally. And even just, taking your resume and like making it shorter or something like that. Like,
yeah. Well, this is Sun Eater's third full-length studio record, and I'm wondering, do you feel like on this third album that you were able to achieve something that maybe you were not quite able to pull off on, say, your debut?
yes. I think with this one, we really let ourselves go.
Hmm.
Where, some of the past records, I think we've sort of held these boxes of like what our sound should be, or what our sound, what we want it to be. But with this one, it was much more, if it's a good idea, we're going to do it. And if, we want to embellish it or change things, we had a lot of time with the whole COVID thing to
Yeah.
really dig in and try to make it as good as we possibly could. So I think that extra time, for better or for worse, I think it really helped us hone in on our songwriting and make it what we wanted it to be overall.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I listen to the record, it's clear what I noticed right away is it's quite progressive leaning in that like there's a lot of other elements, different instrumentation, there's even some like clean vocal coming in. Did you all make this conscious decision to just like say anything goes, whatever we think works, no matter if it's like standard to black metal or not, we're gonna put it in there?
I think we've always kind of had that a little bit, but I think we kind of went in with this idea of like, if we want to try something, let's try it.
Hmm.
And because we didn't have the time restraints, we didn't have necessarily the deadlines that we set for ourselves. So we really got a chance to even try a few things like extra synths. Sean did some cello stuff on two of the songs, I think. And the clean vocals, I feel like I've improved quite a bit since Chinook even. And even like on the demo, I did some like whispery stuff. So it's been sort of a slow process for that. But with the vocals, I think it's the clean vocals are like a bigger challenge for me.
Hmm.
So I think we really wanted to challenge ourselves and try some things and just bang it out. So
Yeah, well, another thing I wanted to ask about the record too is I love the very minimalist album art. Like it's these
mhm.
three swords, black, almost blank canvas. Kind of reminds
Yeah.
me of like some of those like old war metal records, like a blasphemy kind of
Oh,
thing
yeah, yeah.
going on. Um, what was the band kind of thinking behind that?
I have an artist friend
Hmm.
who is a quite close friend of mine. She's done a lot of the artwork for like t-shirts and a lot of the merchandise stuff. And she's done like my tattoos and stuff like that as well.
Oh, sure.
So I like the idea of keeping it close to us. So I like the community aspect of like, we have this friend we really like. Let's get her to do the album art.
Hmm.
And I was quite inspired by Worm Witch's Wolf Hex album art as well. I
Sure.
liked the simplicity of it. And, for us being a smaller band as well, I really wanted something that we could easily take, put on shirts, put on CDs, that kind of thing. So we really went for very simple, very stark imagery.
I mean, some of the most recognizable album arts, they're very, very simple design. I mean, you look at Master of Puppets, it's just the three crosses with the cobwebs, like it's like
Yeah, exactly.
you know it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, I do a lot of the layout stuff for the merch myself.
Sure.
So doing the Chinook record and trying to put that on a shirt, I was like, oh, this is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So the simple one definitely helps there too.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Uh, you meant it's funny you described your I wouldn't you described yourself as a smaller band, but you're now on Prosthetic, which is not a smaller label. What's that jump
Mhm.
like?
That was a big surprise.
Yeah.
Um, we were always open, I think, to working with labels, but I'm not. We didn't really want to force it. Um, Prosthetics approached us, and really liked the Chinook record, and so they reached out and wanted to work with us. But yeah, we're super stoked to be working with them and being able to push this thing a little bit farther because, at this point we've been independent and doing everything ourselves. So it's good to have a little bit of relief.
Yeah. Yeah, and Prosthetic definitely gets the word out on their band. So,
Yeah, yeah, we're
uh,
stoked for sure.
yeah. Uh, you're in you're in Vancouver, and um, I've asked this before, but for some reason, it seems like right now, like you have bands like Spectral Wound and Thantafactive that like Canada, there's something about the Canadian black metal scene that's really going for it right now. What do you have
Mhm.
any theories as to why that is?
Um, Not really, but I think the Vancouver scene especially has really improved.
Hmm.
You have sort of the whole Covenant side of things, with bands like Egregore and even some of the techier stuff like Atrabilis and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and the traditional stuff like Gatekeeper. So there's a lot of good bands, and I think what comes out of that is better bands.
Yeah.
Everyone looks at the local scene, right? You go to the local shows and you see a band like that and you're like, I got to up my game. So there's a little bit of competition there, I feel, but it's all community focused and very very supportive. So it's really cool to be around all these great bands.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like we don't hear about that concept anymore with like music being so available on the internet, but like there's
Mm.
still like the idea of like this is your local scene. This is a band that you associate with. This is either the band that kind of feed off each other.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah.
It's cool. The bands are the ones that come out to the shows, right?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of support within the local scenes for sure.
Sure. Uh, well, you are a black metal band, and I'm curious, what do you think it is about black metal that really draws both you as a creator, but also like its fan base? What do you think what do you think draws black metal fans to black metal?
I think the intensity,
Mhm.
especially for me, that's sort of the draw. But black metal is cool and different from most metal because you can kind of take it as a base for something more.
Mhm.
Um, and there's not really these strict boxes like genre
Yeah.
boxes. If you're a traditional heavy metal band, you kind of have to sound like a heavy metal band. If you're a death metal band, there's sort of a specific sound you kind of have to take. But with black metal, I feel like it's very freeing as far as songwriting goes. You can throw in some Judas Priest worship riffs, or you can throw in weird jazzy lines, or do them both. Like there's really a lot of freedom and wiggle room within the genre. So for me as a musician, I think it's really cool to explore.
Yeah, I mean, like Hell Ripper and Pace Age the Aver are
Yeah,
kind of in the same umbrella. And I think those are two completely different sounding
it's
bands.
it's very strange. It's like they're not.
Yeah.
It's like not the same genre, but it also is. So
Yeah,
it's really cool.
you're right. Like I feel like above other genres of metal, like maybe Doom, but like black metal can be like the characteristic, the musical character, like that tremolo riffing style can kind of be more of like a bed, a foundation for other stuff to be put on top. That's why you can have more stuff experimenting with ambience, or you could add like thrash, like Hell River does, or you could add like you say, you could add symphonic elements.
Yep.
It's just like kind of a blank canvas.
It really is. And like, yeah, even for us, we don't do a whole lot of the trem picking riffs really.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but I would say it's like 50-50. Like there's definitely a lot of exploration to do with there. So it's cool.
Hmm. Well, if you're willing, like, can we go back a bit? You've been a
Sure.
band for 10 years now. What is the origins of Sun Eater?
The origins are I was in a band with a friend of mine. It was
Cool.
going nowhere. Um, so I kind of left that little project. I went on Craigslist. I was like, "Hey, I need at least a bassist and a drummer." I had a good friend who reached out to me, who was from White Rock, so it
Yeah.
took me like an hour and a half to get there. But we sort of had this little. He had his jam space. We would go in. We wrote this 4-song demo thing.
Hmm.
Um, we recorded it really cheaply. I think he I don't think he mastered and mixed it that like pretty much at all. Um, and then after that, they left. I got in touch with Sean, who plays bass, and he had a connection to our drummer Matt.
Hmm.
Matt's actually left the band now, but
Okay. Hmm.
from there, it's meeting people and yeah, just forming connections and writing music. And we did, uh, but I think it took like 2 years even to find those guys. So
Wow.
it's um, a lot of searching. It takes a while sometimes, especially with drummers.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who's never done it myself, like I don't even like for something so kind of i- ultimately niche, like in like the grand scheme of music. Like I see like this. How do you go about saying, "Hey, who else likes black metal in my city? Who wants to play black metal with me?" It's like I don't see a
I
lot of ads for that. Like I like the local record store.
Yeah, they don't really do it anymore. But yeah, it's classifieds through Craigslist is how I found people.
Amazing, yeah.
Um, yeah, I went through high school. There wasn't a whole lot of metalheads in high school. Coming out of high school, I was like, "Fuck, I want a band."
Yeah.
So it was like, how do you find people? You just gotta search, and you have to be kind of diligent because it takes a long time, and a lot of people flake out.
Yeah.
So you just gotta keep going.
There were I'm thinking about high school myself. I mean, I do recall there being people into metal, but like it was a lot of like bands like Whitechapel, like deathcore bands like that were
Mhm.
worthy, or like a lot of Slipknot. There wasn't people really into like the extreme stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one friend who was into Pantera, and I had one friend who was into like Guns N' Roses Poison,
Yeah.
and that was kind of it in my grade, basically. So yeah, it was not a very metal high school for me.
No. uh yeah, well, you're a band that does play live, and I'm wondering, could you get into that persona right now and describe what like the senses are, what it just feels like to play extreme metal live, seeing people mosh to it and just like seeing the beer flying and all of those that are associated with a metal gig.
It's the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
Um, my mind kind of goes blank. Because if I think about what I have to sing next or what I'm playing on guitar, I'll fuck it up. So it's very cathartic, um, but it's a really cool feeling to be able to travel around, to be able to play in front of people and have them come up to you and be like, "Oh man, that was great," and then to have people I've never met before buy shirts or CDs or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, I think, yeah, I really love the live aspect of playing in the band for sure.
Mhm. Are there any band in particular that you've gotten to share the stage with that you're like particularly like, whoa, I can't believe that happened?
We played with Wormwitch and Bewitcher.
Okay, yep.
We played with Wormwitch a couple times, or at least once before. We played with Numenorian before they broke up. Um, a lot of like smaller, just local bands, really. We got to do our cross Canada tour with Hexus.
Hmm.
That was crazy. They were very receptive to us even joining the tour. I think Sean just reached out to them and was like, "Hey, we know you're going across tour across Canada. Can we come?" And they were like, "Yeah, just just get
That's
in touch with
sick.
these people." Yeah, yeah. No, we they sent us their contact list, and we basically reached out. We're like, "Hey, do you have a spot available?" And we booked the tour that way.
Yeah.
Um, I told Sean when he was doing it, I was like, I don't know if it's gonna happen, man. Like, there's no way we can just send an email and like join a tour like that. But it worked out, and then they're awesome dudes. So it was a really cool experience to be able to do that with them.
Yeah, I feel like, there isn't as I don't know, like to send an email out and just like, hey, could be on the tour. I feel like when it comes to like extreme metal, there's not as much like barriers to that as there are maybe with like I don't know, like maybe like a bigger kind of like indie rock scene or something.
Well, it's like even if somebody was to email me, I would be like, I don't know, like,
Yeah,
um, yeah, no, it's really I think that speaks a lot to their character as well to sort of take a chance like that. And
sure.
they toured again across Canada with a band that they met on the tour that we did. So
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So they're totally open to that. Don't send them too many emails, but
Yeah,
they're cool guys for sure.
cool. Well, you said, when you were, putting out the feelers, putting on Craigslist to start this band, like, you obviously had to have been into metal way before that. What got you into it?
I think playing guitar got me into metal.
Hmm.
Um, because when I first got one, it was like, okay, who are the best players of this instrument? And, you know, I started out listening to like Van Halen and stuff like that. Um, but I started looking around and like the speed of metal, and I started looking into like the virtuosos, the Steve Vais.
Hmm.
But I think the first one that really caught my attention was Alexi Leo and Children of Bodom.
Yep.
That was big for me, and I think I listened to nothing but them from the age of 12 to 16,
Hmm.
and then I found Death, and then I was like, okay, you can do a little bit more than just play fast. Um, so yeah, I think that was the big thing, was just I wanted to play as good as I possibly could.
Do you still like Van Halen?
Oh yeah.
I I don't know what I'm missing. Like I just they're one
there's
of those
a
bands I just can't get into.
there's some fluff there.
Yeah.
The 1984 album I think is my favorite, and then number one. I don't usually go back to a whole lot of their other stuff, honestly.
Yeah, I mean I've heard the first record and I think that one's probably their most palatable for me. But I think yeah, once you get into some of the later stuff, it's like
It's
it,
a little,
yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's a little soft, kind of. It has a
Yeah.
weird, I don't know, like player ladies man kind of thing to it.
That's the biggest turnoff for me. But I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
like bands like Led Zeppelin who aren't any more innocent of that. So
Yeah, totally. But uh, yeah, he was a cool guitar player, so it's
definitely
hard to
was.
deny that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of those bands that like I can't deny the talent, but I just like it's just a little too I don't know, like Aerosmith or Guns N' Roses, like too macho posturing for me. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get you. It took me a while even to go back, listening to bands like even Judas Priest, for instance,
Yeah.
just because I got so into the extreme spectrum of things,
Mhm.
and then when I went back and was like, okay, all these rock songs about rocking are good.
Yeah. I mentioned before, like I have not had that like click to where like okay, I can get back, I can like understand, like get over myself and get into like Van Halen or like AC/DC bands I'm not really into, to be
Yep.
honest. But like the light bulb has clicked and I got over myself on new metal recently. Like okay, I kind of I love Korn. I love Slipknot. I'm not like I got over myself. Like those bands are actually kind of ruled.
Sometimes it takes one song or moment, and you're like, oh, that's why. Okay. And
Yeah.
then it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Uh yeah, it's funny how that works.
It is. Yeah, totally. And
Uh,
now I'm like, I love just all the 80s stuff so much.
yeah. Yeah. It's tough because like I associate like obviously there's I love Maiden and Priest, but I associate like 80s like I think it just I mean obviously thrash was happening, so like like there
Yeah.
was and then death metal kind of happened in the late 80s, but like all of that glam stuff like Motley Crue, Poison, it just I do not like that stuff.
I still don't like Poison. I do like some Motley Crue. I actually saw them live a few times before Vince Neil like lost his voice completely.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it sometimes it just takes a moment or a song or something to be like, oh yeah, okay.
sure. I don't want to be closed-minded. Like I've meant to like go back and kind of like, am I missing something? Right now, it hasn't hit me yet.
Fair.
Okay.
But yeah, being open minded is what it's all about. I've I've been trying to get into more modern kind of stuff that isn't rock or metal, just to see what I like. One person that my wife and I like quite a bit is Orville Peck.
Okay, I'm
Um,
familiar.
yeah, we saw him live at the PNE like a year or two ago.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, it's just exploring sounds and seeing what's good that's out there. So
I was gonna say, band that comes to mind is like Godspeed You Black Emperor, but that's that you said rock or
yeah,
metal, and Godspeed is definitely a rock band. So
yeah, fair enough.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's some of that alternative hip hop that I really like Death Grips. Really,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I'm a big Wu Tang guy, so
Wu-Tang, NWA.
yeah.
Nah, so we can go off on I actually one of the most expensive records I've ever bought that I still own, and it dropped in value recently because why it was so expensive
Repress,
in the first
maybe.
place changed, but
Mm.
I own an original pressing of 3 Feet High and Rising by De La Soul.
Oh,
And
okay.
when I bought that, they were still like they none of the music was on Spotify and they were not repressing the vinyl. So like to hear it, you had to get a copy of like the original master or get a tape somewhere. And so I finally gave it like I need this, so I got it.
Yeah, yeah. I have a story about similar like that. I used to work at a place called Sunrise Records,
Okay,
and they're like HMV. So
sure.
they're like a chain record store. Um, we have had these Melanie Martinez records come in. Whatever her newest one was called, I can't remember. I think I still have one, but I bought five of these misprints. So they were on one side of the record was the regular Melanie Martinez. On
Yeah.
the other side was the newest Fallout Boy. It was
That's
like
wild.
AB. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're like because we had a return actually.
Yeah.
So we put it on the record player, and I was like, I don't believe you. There's no way that it's two different records on one. So we play this thing, and it starts playing Fallout Boy on this Marlene Martinez record. Um, so in that same box, I like went through and like checked them all, and they were all like that. Originally on Discogs, they were selling for 500.
Wow.
Yep. So I was like, oh, this is easy money. And then of course it took forever to sell, and now they're worth like nothing.
Sure.
But yeah, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure a label that handles Fall Out Boy fixed that really quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was not too many.
Well, I'm looking at your setup here, your apartment. It looks like you have some books, you have your records over there.
I do boxes
Outside of
still.
yeah, outside of playing metal and listening to record, what else are you into? Do you what are the hobbies? Like what tell me about you personally.
I don't do a whole lot besides music.
Hell yeah.
I I play guitar a lot. I do have my records. I haven't bought one in a while, but I buy CDs and tapes too, so I've got a bunch of those. Um, I occasionally do some YouTube stuff. Um,
Hey, me too.
yeah, but it's also music.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot there. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mostly just, if I have some spare time, I'll play video games or whatever. So,
Sure.
but yeah, that's pretty much it.
What's the last thing you played?
I've been trying to get through Elden Ring.
Nah, yeah.
Um, I'm on the last two bosses.
Same.
Yeah, so just have to finish those. I've just been too sore to play, so I haven't done it yet. But
Did you see the April Fool's joke that the creator of Elden Ring did?
no, what was
It was
it?
brilliant. They tweeted new Elden Ring expansion. Uh,
Okay.
and I mean, they already announced the DLC, so like to announce like a new expansion, that must be a huge deal.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when you looked at it, it was like a trailer video, but it said Elden Ring expansion. And then as the video played on your feed, the Elden Ring text just kept getting bigger and bigger. It expanded.
Oh,
There's an
I get
expansion.
it. That's pretty good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, just so silly like that. That's an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I haven't touched Elden Ring yet, and it's something I've been wanting to do, but it's like I play a lot of games. Like, it's a big hobby of mine. It's like, oh, okay. I try to like, because I mean, I beat Baldur's Gate recently, which is like
Okay,
a hundred
yeah.
hour campaign. But like, I want to balance out like playing a lot of the great games, but also playing more like indie titles and stuff, and like shorter games. So I try to like play like one of those long, open world expansive experience, and then space it out with some other shorter experiences, and then get how
Yeah,
to do it.
totally.
So, yeah.
Wicked. Yeah, I have a little group of friends that we played Diablo 4. Um, the last season sucked, so we didn't play too much. Um, I've been looking at Balatro.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that
I
one
haven't
would
played
be
it
fun.
myself, but I know of it.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen some like YouTube videos and stuff like that. It looks fun, but yeah, I have not played Baldur's Gate 3 yet. I want to maybe do Dragon's Dogma 2, but it's so expensive. Um,
I don't know. I know at least on PC, like I know that like the game itself like is supposed to be really good, but it's just terribly optimized. Like it's just like unless you have like the highest NPC, it's probably gonna run really buggy.
yeah, that's fair. I'll probably hold off on that one anyway to wait for a sale or something anyway.
Sure.
It was like 95 Canadian. It was like crazy. I don't know if that's going to be
Wow.
the normal, but that's yeah, it's pretty extreme for me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I rarely buy games new just because like on Steam you can get.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think right now like Cyberpunk is like 50% off. Like if you want a game, it's gonna be on sale at some point. So
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to play
yeah,
everything brand new, so
yeah. Well, Vithar, those are all the questions I had for you. But before I let you go, I want to leave the floor to you for any plugs you might have or any potential last words.
definitely. The new record Never Returns comes out May 10th.
Okay.
The there's a video for Never Return that Prosthetic has posted, but we're really looking forward to doing more shows, to getting this album out there and having people listen to it and experience sort of the heartache of 4 years of recording and writing. Um,
Yeah.
it feels really good to get it out there. So we're really stoked to hear what people have to say about it.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, thanks again for taking the time to chat with me. Had a great conversation. As always, thank you to my patrons. Thank you for watching. My name is Maddie, aka Beaver Mosh, and I'm signing off.